Are you ready, kids? 'Cause I sure am. In fact, I'm so ready that I'm not even gonna bother explaining what it is I'm reviewing. Not that SpongeBob really needs an explanation. So let's jump right into the first episode, Help Wanted.
It's not on the DVD, bozo.
Sorry, what?
You heard. It's not on the Season 1 DVD.
Oh yeah. For some strange reason, the first ever episode of the series isn't included on the Season 1 DVD set.
The complete first season, my ass!
And, while it is unfortunate that I can't review the very first episode of this series, I can still review the first episode I ever saw, Shanghaied.
Not only is this the first SpongeBob episode that I, and many others, ever saw, but it's also one of the highest rated in the series as well. That, and it has some alternate endings, something which most every other episode doesn't seem to have.
And the DVD doesn't have them either.
What?
You heard me. Shanghai's alternate endings aren't included on the DVD either.
Damn it! Well, seeing as I can't review either of the episodes I wanted to, I'm going to instead review a random episode from Season 1. And that would be... BubbleStand. Okay then.
Tiny bubble, and the wine, make me a happy.
Due to some DVD releases, some SpongeBob episodes have their own DVD covers.
BubbleStand is not one of those episodes.
So yeah, no cover analysis. Anyway, the episode opens on our titular lead stepping out of his house to enjoy the beauty of the day.
Well, that, and to begin assembling a rickety structure in his front yard.
This attracts the ire of SpongeBob's cranky neighbor, Squidward.
Please, hold your applause.
Squidward wants SpongeBob to keep the noise down so that he can practice his clarinet in peace, and SpongeBob obliges him for about 10 seconds.
Fortunately, SquarePants only needed 2 more seconds of noisy construction to complete his project, and that would be a 25-cent BubbleStand.
These are matters of undeniable fact.
Oh, please. I mean, who in the world would pay to blow bubbles?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Well, of course, Patrick would pay to blow some bubbles.
Granted, Patrick doesn't actually have any money, but SpongeBob grants him a loan of 25 cents. And this has got to be the quickest debt payoff that I've ever seen.
How did I ever get surrounded by such loser neighbors?
Hey, that's uncalled for! Granted, I also think that a 25-cent BubbleStand is a dumb idea. I can get my own bottle of bubble suds from the dollar store if I want to. But the difference between myself and Squidward is, I'm not an ass about it.
And I'm sure he will suffer no repercussions for his behavior whatsoever. Anyway, Patrick is having trouble with blowing a bubble, so SpongeBob gives him some lessons. Incredibly elaborate, incredibly active lessons, which I'm sure absolutely work 100% of the time.
Oh, who am I kidding? We've all tried this out as kids, and even if it didn't work, it was still kinda fun.
Of course, this is a comedy cartoon, so doing a bunch of rhythmic gymnastics is exactly what is needed to blow only the most magnificent of bubbles. And what magnificent bubbles they are. All of these are really imaginative, and they come with some nice sound effects, my favorite being this caterpillar one.
Perfection.
That said, SpongeBob's greatest and largest work is this one bubble, which I trust you can all recognize.
It's a giraffe!
Oh right, Patrick is the resident dumb character of this series. I probably should have mentioned that a bit sooner.
Unfortunately for SpongeBob, said giraffe finds its way into Squidward's house where it pops. And, after much quibbling, demonstrating, and shaming, SpongeBob and Patrick go off to sulk, thus leaving Squidward alone with the bubble suds.
Bubbles. Art. Bubbles.
Go on, blow a bubble. We all know you want to. It isn't like SpongeBob or Patrick will ever know.
Surprise, motherfucker.
He walked right into that one.
And seeing as he was caught in the act, Squidward still insists on Bubbles being stupid.
That is until SpongeBob offers lessons for 25 cents, to which Squidward's pride is scorned, so now he must blow a bubble in order to spite the kid.
One small problem with that, though, he can't get one to come out, so he keeps tossing in quarters until one gets blown, and that turns out like...
You know, Squidward, maybe if you did use SpongeBob's technique, maybe your bubbles wouldn't just slump over and die.
Technique!
Well, yeah, you really should be using the technique.
Technique!
Alright, you don't have to use the technique if you don't want.
First I do this. Spin around. Stop.
Wait, you're using it now?
Double take 3 times, and here we go. Pelvic thrust. Woohoo!
Dude, it's fine. You don't have to do this if you don't want to.
Woohoo! Oh, stop! On your right foot. Don't forget it.
Alright, dude, we get it. You think this is stupid.
And bring it around town.
Look, I'm just saying that.
And a little of this, a little of that.
Can I even finish a single
A
sentence?
little this, that. Then.
Okay, I'm not talking to him anymore.
So, after grumpily replicating SpongeBob's technique, Squidward starts screaming into the bubble wand. This results in a bubble larger than anything SpongeBob has made so far, to which SpongeBob and Patrick praise him for.
And this leads to Squidward realizing that he's been a bit too harsh on his neighbors, and he starts to reevaluate what is truly worth spending free time on. Or rather, he's a stuck-up egomaniac, and he marches off to do a victory clarinet solo.
And this is the best his clarinet playing has been in the entirety of the series. Which, for those of you who don't know, it's a running joke in this series that he really sucks at playing it. And yet here, in Season 1 no less, we have an episode where he plays something perfectly fine for jamming out to.
I rock.
Of course, seeing as he is now reveling in his own self-worth while ignoring his own prior dickish behavior, 'tis high time for some karmically appropriate retribution.
And that retribution has taken the form of something large enough to cast a menacing shadow.
Seeing as this is all taking place underwater, that can only mean one thing. The Baraki are on the attack!
Nah, it's just the giant bubble that Squidward vocally abused into existence mere moments ago, and apparently it is large enough not only to envelop his house, but to lift said house off its foundations several meters in the air.
Hello, my friends. You are looking at us.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Genius.
And if this wasn't a bad enough situation as is, the bubble bursts.
Granted, Squidward's house simply floats back down rather than crashing, but that won't make him any less upset.
And because of that, SpongeBob and Patrick decide that today isn't a good day for staying outside and being yelled at.
Not that Squidward is in the mood for any more drama, as, after his house comes down, all he does is let out some weak clarinet notes.
And that's it. That's the punchline they ended the episode on.
What more could anyone ask?
BubbleStand is a fun episode to watch. But it doesn't really aspire to be anything more than that. As such, I give it a 5 out of 10 both personally and objectively.
As it is, SpongeBob SquarePants is a series which covers the full spectrum of quality, with the first 4 seasons being amazing, season 5 and 6 having a noticeable drop in quality, followed by season 7 through 10 being dreck, and season 11 and 12 bringing the quality back up to good again. That said, it goes without saying that there are a lot of average things out there, and seeing as I've already established that SpongeBob is a series that runs the gauntlet of quality, it stands to reason that it has more average episodes than most anything else.
And before I go on, I'd just like to restate something that I said in the 0th episode of The Silvered Cloud. Just because I rate something as average, it doesn't mean that it's bad, it's just average.
As for what that means, if I rate something a 5 out of 10, it isn't bad or even mediocre, nor is it amazing. Much rather, it's just good enough to be truly enjoyable, but not good enough to have anybody say it's anything more than a personal favorite.
The key word there being personal.
But, as for how this relates to the SpongeBob episode I just reviewed, well, BubbleStand is one of those average episodes that permeate the series. And it's an average episode because, while the animation, voice acting, writing, and everything else are all good, I've seen all of that done better in other episodes of Season 1 alone.
That said, the thing about average items is that they are somebody's favorite, so if this episode, or anything else I give a 5 out of 10 to, is your personal favorite 10 out of 10, then more power to ya.
On that note, one thing this episode greatly establishes about the series is the use of bubbles to pull off truly insane stuff that Caesar Zeppeli could only dream of. On the other hand, one thing this episode does that has become rather tired is the SpongeBob and Patrick do something that annoys Squidward shtick. Sure, this is the first episode to use that plot, but that doesn't change the fact that it has been done far better, and far, far worse, in other episodes. So yeah, this episode is just average, and that is a-okay. Not only because it's perfectly fine for a piece of art to be average, but also because, now that I've reviewed this, you all now have an example of what I consider to be average.
So yeah, BubbleStand is average, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Next week I'll be doing something a little bit different. Until then, enjoy what you love, my friends, even if it is objectively average.
Look out, pink elephants on parade, here they come, hipperty-hopperty.